with us. Pranam Sadhguru.
Namaskaram, namaskaram to all
Namaskar.
of you. Sorry
And
we could not come and meet you personally, here we are.
yes, we were thinking that to have you in our conference and you can see face to face each and every Vice Chancellor. But because of Corona, it could not happen. So thank you, Sadhguru. We are grateful for you to agree to our request, first for coming to the Vice Chancellor's conference and now for interacting with them online. We have a very eminent panel with us who will be seeking your guidance on various issues. First question I would like to place before you, and then our panel will be asking you the questions. My question, Sadhguru, is that now people are dividing the time into two parts, BC and AC. BC is before Corona and AC is after Corona. It is felt that after Corona, the world will see a new normal in all spheres of life, including the higher education space. We are now moving towards online education, but without having a face-to-face interaction in core learning spaces with teachers, peers, and others on university campuses, how do we ensure holistic development of the students? And how do we ensure physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual development of our students? We seek your guidance on this.
Namaskaram to every one of you. Well, I would not want to accord that kind of significance to the virus that it will determine BC and AC. And anyway, we have not seen the AC yet. And right now, all we have about the virus is a lot of confusion. We don't know anything about it really in its entirety. We know bits and pieces of what it can do, but every day we are coming up with new observations of what it is capable of doing. Initially, it just started as a respiratory ailment and then it's multiplying into many things, neurological things are being affected, genetic material is being affected. Every day scientists are coming up with new observations and none of it is absolutely clear. So that is one thing. So we have actually done absolutely nothing about the virus yet. We have only managed to contain it by controlling human behavior. But once we relax that, how it will behave, what way it will go is anybody's guess. So one thing is, before we congregate in numbers for a conference like this that we can come together, we don't know if it's 1 year or 2 years later because people are talking about second, third waves in most parts of world's geography. Having said all these things which seem negative, well, I don't wish to paint a negative picture. The reality is we don't know, so we just have to be observant and watch, till then disciplined enough to keep distances so that virus doesn't, have a clear sweep over the human population. When coming to education, it is possible education could change from the way it was to how it will be tomorrow in a completely dimensional way. Because I've been talking about this for the last few years, with the advent of artificial intelligence, the value of scholarship is going away. When I say scholarship just by memory, in the sense, what memory I can carry in my head, my phone carries 10 times that memory. As these gadgets, enhance themselves and artificial intelligence comes, what I mean by artificial intelligence in my understanding is data, analysis, permutations and combinations of how many ways we can present it. This is all most human beings are doing if they are intellectual. Intellectually, this is all you can do. You gather data, you analyze, and you see how you can make many varieties of the same thing in terms of application, in terms of understanding, and in terms of expression. In how many different ways can we do this? This a machine will do way better than any one of us, 100%. It can remember better than us, it can analyze better than us, and it can produce permutations and combinations better than us. Right now, we may not be yet there, but I feel in the next 5 years or maximum 10 years' time, we'll definitely be there. Once this happens, as we have known education till now, that you go to a school or a college to pick up information, try to store it properly and learn to analyze and learn to use it, that form of education will become totally redundant. Maybe the virus will kind of hasten this process and move us in this direction, because now I don't think in the month of June children can go back to school. That's not how it's looking. So if things are still out and there are still infections going on, I don't think parents will send back their children to school or even to college for that matter. So, because of this, a dramatic change could happen in the way education is delivered. Will it happen to every other activity? I have my doubts, but education definitely could go a sea change, because anyway, it was overdue. It was heading in that way, but because we are not able to create new mechanisms as rapidly as technology changes, as our needs change, we are not able to create a whole education machinery in the world. Because of that, we've been going a little slow, but the virus may definitely hasten that process. As far as education is concerned, as far as schools and universities are concerned, it's very much possible that it becomes BC and AC eras.
Thank you, Sadhguruji. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We do need creative thinking in our universities and colleges, and they should not become the information storehouse, as you say. Sadhguruji, now we have a very eminent person, Chairman AICTE with us. He is looking after all the technical universities and colleges of the country, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe. May I request him to please pose a question to Sadhguru?
Sadhguruji,
Namaskaram.
Pranam,
Namaskaram.
Vanakkam. I visited Isha Foundation too last year.
Oh, is that so?
Yes. And your thoughts, have been reading them and viewing them on WhatsApp and various media. They are all inspiring and thought-provoking. So in this period of lockdown, I would like to ask a question, which is there in the minds of many people. Our learning is going on despite the lockdown, because we always say that learning is lifelong learning and learning should never stop. There are several online classes, workshops, seminars, albeit probably more in number than during the normal times. So the education and learning has been continuing. But many people feel that they are isolated, feel lonely. What is the mantra that you suggest to keep people energetic, lively, and enjoy this lockdown while learning?
Well, if one is in a mode of learning, or whenever you want to learn something, when you want to focus on something, being alone is a great blessing. Friends and family are a big distraction. When you really want to learn something, you wish to be alone, that's very normal. So if they're really learners, it is fine, but for a whole lot of them, going to school and college is a social process, not necessarily an academic or an educational process, you know. And about conferences or online education happening, yes, it's wonderful on one level, but unfortunately, we are not living in one world. Different segments of population lives in different worlds by themselves. So right now, out of nearly 1.6 billion people that we can consider as as students, officially students enrolled into some institution, out of this, nearly 860 million people don't have access to internet and computers. So what do you do with them? How do you make them learn? This is a big challenge. So leveling this field is going to be the main challenge, how to make technology and broadband and reach possible for every student in the world. Somehow, in the last century, in every village, in every tribal hamlet, we built schoolrooms. However minimal and rudimentary they are, school rooms have come up in the remotest parts of Africa, in India, wherever you go. Largely they have come up. They may be very rudimentary, people may not agree this tin shed is a school, but something was happening. But now, if they cannot assemble in one place, they definitely don't have online connections and computers and things. So we need to be really bothered about that segment of the population, and otherwise we must recraft the idea of education for all those people who don't have such access. And education need not necessarily be academic. Education can be in so many practical levels that, in this country, over 60% of the population is still in agriculture. Education can happen on various different levels. But that kind of overhaul cannot happen in a short span of time, not in this forced times of corona virus, that in 3 months or 6 months we can achieve something like that. That will be a very impractical idea. But it needs to happen because in terms of what I've spoken to a few experts, what they say, to get broadband and computers into the hands of every person in the world, or to make sure that everybody has online access, it may take another 8 to 10 years, that's what they're saying. But with the lowered sense of economy in this I will use the terminology that you have all coined in this AC period. I'm sorry, is that AC? After, okay. So, in this AC period with lowered economies, these 8 years may multiply into 15 years, we don't know. I'm just guessing. So, we definitely need to think up different ways of doing this, and whatever inner genius we have, whatever innovativeness we have, whatever intelligence we have, whatever ideas we have, I think this is the time to pull out all those things out of our bags and see if they work or don't work, because I don't see a magic wand solution for all geographies, all economic disparities that are there. Some magic wand solution that will work for everybody, I don't believe that. But if in some way, if education, at least the basic education, is shift from a computer screen to a television screen, I think the reach will increase. The number of people left out will be far less than the number of people who will be left out with need for broadband. So somewhere, if it becomes necessary, the government should mandate that, so that our government can start channels which will have like… So let's say like in India there is Doordarshan, almost in every village they have Doordarshan. So evenings at least maybe 4 hours a day, education should happen on Doordarshan, or even other commercial channels can be brought into this purpose. We need to do something so that the reach is enhanced. If we just stick to the computers and online facilities, I think enhancing that with this difficult economic times could become a big impediment. Evolved minds, more fitter bodies and more spiritually evolved people. Well, unfortunately, largely we have never focused on this in the last 75 years in this country. It is anyway time to do that, that education should not just mean a heap of information in our heads, but our overall development of the human being. Certain institutions may be focusing, but large scale, that's not happening. Maximum number of people are not getting that. Above all, one's enhancement as a human being, widening our horizons, this I think is not happening. Largely it is becoming information gathering, passing examinations, getting a job. Well, that has been the economic status of the country, so getting a job was the primary thing of education. But as economic prosperity comes, that idea must change. Education is not just about acquiring a job, but about enhancing a human being. That has to come in. I think for that we need a more, a more prosperous economic base. Only then we can even talk about it with people.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Sadhguru. Thank you, Sadhguru. You can YouTube, but you can also ask a question from Sadhguru through chat. Use the hashtag Ask Sadhguru and please ask the question. So now we have with us Professor Ayman Salunke. He is the president of AIU. President of AIU happens to be the senior most vice chancellor of the country. He is presently the vice chancellor of Bharati Vidyapeeth, but in past he has been the vice chancellor of Central University of Rajasthan, Yashwantrao Open University, and Shivaji University. Sir, may I ask you to ask a question from Professor Salunke? Salunke sir.
Namaskaram, namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Sadhguruji Pranam. I have a question. India has rich traditions and traditional knowledge which made India a world leader in past. In my opinion, higher education institutions should adapt and integrate these rich traditions and traditional knowledge, which through the innovation can lead to betterment of the society. How best this can be done? This is my first question. And second question is, what are your thoughts? Please.
Uh, well, one thing is science is neither old nor new, because science means essentially something that's always relevant, something connected, something that we observed or realized by seeing the natural phenomena, so it's always true. Instead of classifying sciences as ancient and modern, it's very important what is relevant for today must be brought forth. It doesn't matter where it comes from. The moment we label science as Indian or Chinese or American or whatever, the moment you label it, there will be a certain amount of resistance, there will be a certain amount of unnecessary controversy about everything. The real thing has been lost. So I feel it's very important that whatever realizations and knowledge we had in this country, variety of things which would be of immense value, because in my opinion, this is not because of my nationalistic fervor or something. I've looked at this very carefully. Nowhere else on this planet has any culture looked at the human mechanism with as much detail and profoundness as we have in this culture. So having said that, whatever we do in this world, whatever is our thing, essentially it is towards human well-being. Now we are doing so many things. We want to go to moon, we want to go to Mars, all this is fine with me. But human beings should be well first. That well-being is not happening, and we are doing so many things which only end up in destruction. If you really look at it, unfortunately, our knowledge, our education, our science, our technology is the basis of all destruction. Uneducated people, illiterate people are not destroying the world. It is all university-educated people who will destroy the world, unfortunately. How can this happen? This is only happening because we have made education into simply a heap of information without any inner experience, without understanding the nature of the human being itself. Because everything that you observe, even as science, even for something as simple as for an Isaac Newton to observe a fruit will fall down, for this also is happening only with the instruments of our perception. We do not know how a bird is seeing it. A bird may be seeing the fruit falls away from a tree, not down, maybe it is going up in its perception, I'm just joking. It doesn't matter what, but I'm saying our perception is the basis of all sciences. It is the way we perceive, the way we observe. This itself may be faulty, we do not know. This may not be an absolute reality, this is a human reality. Largely our sciences are a human reality, not an absolute reality. It is from our context, it is true. So what is true from the context of who we are is only relevant towards our well-being, but unfortunately it is not crafted like that. So definitely the ethos of this culture and this nation is very important, but we must have the wisdom. We claim that we are a very wise nation. If we are a very wise nation, we must have the wisdom as not labeling it as Indian. Because the moment you label it as an Indian, if I am a Chinese person, oh, this is a wrong nationality to take. Let's say I am an American person, why will I want to do Indian stuff? I don't want to do. I won't even listen to what you're saying, I will simply resist because I am not Indian and I don't want to be Indian. So, it is very important that we have the wisdom. Always our culture has talked about universality of who we are. So it's best that we label science as science, knowledge as for what it is, our knowing and wisdom for what it is, rather than always trying to brand it as Bharat Mata Ki Jai all the time. That is okay, it must beat in our hearts, but we should not throw it everywhere because it'll get rejected, unnecessary resistance. what is of immense value gets lost in petty politics.
Thank you, Sadhguru. Very well said. Sadhguru, now we have with us Professor Bhushan Patwardhan. He is Vice Chairman of University Grants Commission, and he is also the Chairman of the task force constituted by the Government of India to monitor R&D activities on COVID-19 from the Ayurveda side. So may I request Professor Patwardhan to please ask a question from Sadhguru.
Namaste, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram.
I must confess that you have answered most of my questions which I had in mind, and I promise you that I will spend some more quality time with you later. But taking this further, when we started discussing about reimagining Indian university, this is a theme for this session, and I had discussion with Dr. Pankaj Mittal that time. And we said that, look, we have a very good tradition. We talk about Nalanda, Takshashila, but how they are related today, what point exactly you have made it, So how we can relate it today, how we can reinvent that in today's context. And I want to ask you a question regarding the purpose of education for New India, the new education for New India, because our current education, we are still carrying the British legacy, of creating some kind of a employment structure which is necessary for the rurals, it's the same thing. So what kind of information even today we are giving is meant for that, and that is why farmer's son or daughter also wants to become a graduate, whether that value will add on something to that or not. And once they become graduate, they don't feel like going in agricultural fields also. So what the question I have in mind is teachers, and I am a teacher, so I'm putting me first in that box. Teachers have monopolized the education today. We think that what we teach in the classroom is only teaching, whereas teaching happens all over. Nature is a great teacher, family is a great teacher, mother is a great teacher, community is a great teacher, and we completely undermine this component of teaching in our own so-called academic environment. So sending student out as a part of academic activity, at least for a semester, wherein urban students can go to rural area, rural students can come to urban area, this kind of a exchange, I can tell they can learn so much from farmers. What is that around? Today the situation is students may not even know from where mangoes are coming. They will say that Reliance Mall. This is the kind of situation we have brought in. And students are not considered at all. We are saying that this is the syllabus, you have to complete it in this time, and you have no choice. So student-centric system have we rebuilt on our own ethos, on our own experience, which is very, very relevant to India. Just one point I will make, and I'll request you to answer. We have decided that there will be some kind of a national mechanism, what we have called it as National Academic Credit Bank. And we are saying that let students decide when they want to graduate. Why you want to insist that a particular student has to get graduated in 3 years? He or she may take 5 years or may be able to do it in 1 year, Let their creativity, let their intelligence, let their interest drive, and not you dictate, So this National Academic Credit Bank will allow them to earn credits not from their one university, but from anywhere in the world. And as long as they comply with the university's requirement of number of credit hours, they should be able to get that degree. So, and the semester outreach program in which students can go out. These are the 2 points at the backdrop I want to put before I request you to answer my question. Thank you, Sadhguru. It was so nice to talk to you.
Well, if you ask me, this may not go down very well with everybody, but let me tell you what's in my heart. See, why are we trying to control education in so many ways? Whether you want to liberate the education process or you want to control it, this is a decision nation must take. Right now, education is largely kind of determined. You said teachers, I don't think so. It is largely the parents who determine what kind of education. They are from another generation. Most parents are out of touch with today's world. You ask any young person, they will say they are not in touch with today's world. Or they are not in touch with what is going to happen in this future or what you're calling as AC. So why are parents deciding? Now, till a certain age, yes, parents will decide. But right now, not only parents, government is deciding what you must study and what you must not study. I'm saying it cannot be done like overnight, but in a phased manner in the next 8 to 10 years, just release the education completely, absolutely. You just set some standards that if you want to get to this place, you must know this much language, this much mathematics, this much science, this much whatever. Just set the basic standard I'm saying not for first standard, second standard, not like this. For 10th standard, you set it something, for 12th standard you set something, for graduation you set something. In between, do not put any structure. Let every private institution teach whichever way they want, whatever they want. As long as the students are happy and parents are happy, it is nobody's business. When I was talking to somebody very prominent who makes education policies in the country, this is what I said. I said, what makes you think that you are more concerned about the children than their own parents? Where did you get this idea? If parents are happy and children are happy and they're meeting whatever standards we have set international standards. If you want to get out of high school, you must know this much science, this much mathematics, this much language, whatever proficiency. But everybody need not go through the same thing. So now I may start an agriculture school where it's all practical and little bit of science and whatever, but this should be allowed. Right now, we are driving, for example, I'm saying there are many things which are being destroyed like this. One thing is definitely textile industry, handloom industry is completely going away simply because compulsory school education. Well, the biggest danger right now is that today, nearly 95% of the children from the farming community are going to school. Come and see in Tamil Nadu, I'm sure this is true everywhere. There are nearly like 250,000 to 400,000 children who have reached 10th standard, that is 15 to 16 years of age. But because they have free, promotions up to 9th standard, because they didn't want them to drop out, this is misplaced compassion, they just passed out. All they know is that they have the attitude of the educated, but they can't add 2 plus 2. That's where they are. They can't go back to the farm and work because physically they are not fit enough to go back, nor do I have the attitude to go back. They can't go and do that carpentry or whatever his father was doing. So all skills have been lost, agriculture has been lost, and now they just have the attitude of the educated. Oh, there are millions of children like this in the country right now. What will they become? This is a hotbed for crime, terror, extremism, all kinds of things because youth are just hanging around on the street without any skills. Now we are trying to do skill development. Well, 17-year-old boy or 18-year-old boy is not easy to suddenly take him into some discipline and, make him into some kind of a skill. So we must set this up that it is a structure like this. By the time you're 18, you must have… either must be going to your university or you must have some livelihood skills. If you don't have both, you must be forcefully conscripted into either military or paramilitary or a skill development institution which is 1 year residential. They must go through the discipline of becoming physically fit, mentally fit, disciplined enough to learn a skill and execute it. I'm saying… why I'm saying this is, right now, I'm just saying this is true almost all over the country. Let's say if your carpenter comes and fixes the door, if you open it, you can't close it, if you close it, you can't open it. Again, you need another carpenter to come and fix it another way. So all these things are happening simply because there was traditional training process for all these skills. Now that we have broken, but we are not able to replace it with high technology training process or high level of international level of training process, we are not able to deliver. In between, we are stuck unless you make education into a lucrative process for private institutions that they can charge what they want, teach what they want. As long as the students and the parents are happy, I don't see why government should bother. You will develop enormous amount of skill in the world, in the country like this. Academics is not made for every human being. It is not necessary everybody must go to the university and learn the same things. There are some people who are by attitude into academic kind of mindset, they must go into academics. The rest of the people should learn other kinds of skills, innovations, business, variety of things. This is the land of entrepreneurs. You were mentioning that we were a very successful nation some time ago. Yes, that is because there was enterprise, and enterprise happened because the only institution through which you could learn was family. Family was the way that we delivered, family and the caste which was there, which delivered skills from generation to generation. Well, we have broken that. That is fine, we can't rebuild that now, but it is best the new family is private enterprise because industry needs skills. Let them get out and train their people. Why are they going to IIMs and IITs and try to pick the best? Why don't they make their investment little more long-term, go to 10th standard children and from there train them for whatever requirements they have in their industry and business? If you let them loose, they will do this. Certain amount of disruption will be there, but we must be willing for that. Only then we will unleash the potential of this youthful population, because in my opinion, whatever the demographic dividend we have right now, the advantage we have over every other country in the world, this advantage will stay with us only for a maximum of 15 to 20 years. If we just let it pass like this in endless debate, then once that advantage is gone, then we have millions of people without any skills, without any inspiration, without any discipline. This is going to be a massive problem to handle.
Thank you, Sadhguru. It is true that everybody should be having at least some basic skills, even if they have the intellectual or a high level of education, but basic skills are very, very necessary. Sadhguru, we have with us Professor Tej Pratap. He is Vice President of AIU and presently Vice Chancellor of Govind Ballabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology in Pantnagar. And he has earlier been the Vice Chancellor of APG Shimla University, Sher-e Kashmir University and Himachal Pradesh Agricultural University, Palanpur. May I request Professor Tej Pratap to ask a question from Sadhguru?
Namaskaram. There's no audio, you must do something about this.
Audio? Tej Pratap ji?
I think he's on mute probably, please.
No, we are able to listen to Tej Pratap ji.
Oh, it's not coming here.
Sir, please.
I can hear you, ma'am, but I'm not able to hear him.
तेज प्रताप जी, आपका कुछ प्रॉब्लम है? अच्छा, अभी सुन रहा था, अभी हमें भी नहीं सुन रहा है। आपका म्यूट अब अभी म्यूट हुआ है, अभी इसको दोबारा से अनम्यूट करिए। सर, प्लीज अनम्यूट योर माइक्रोफोन, और मे बी ईशा फाउंडेशन प्लीज अनम्यूट द माइक्रोफोन।
I can hear you, ma'am, but we are not able to hear him.
Sir, we are not able to hear you, sir. We are not able to hear you. Sadhguru, what I will do is, he has sent me the question in advance, so I will ask the question which he is wanting to ask. Sadhguru?
Yes, please, ma'am, do that.
What Professor Tej Pratap, he gave me the question for asking. He says that in agriculture sector, where we are all headed, appreciable production of food and other crops, but it has not helped improve lives of large section of small farmers. They remain unhappy. On the other hand, consumers are unhappy because of unsafe food available to them. With production, only happiness is there. Any strategic mistake in our agricultural policy designing and in our research and education strategy? What is the way forward to reforms in the agriculture sector? How to improve so that farmer as well as the consumers are happy?
Namaskaram, Professor. I'm sorry we couldn't hear you. Uh, what I would say is, right now there's a large-scale movement happening called the farmer producer organizations. Well, we are also running one of the best farmer producer organizations in the country. It is #1 in Tamil Nadu and also among the top companies in the country. This is an assembly of farmers. A similar thing was done some time ago in the form of cooperatives, but unfortunately they did not fix the parameters well enough. Too many political and other influences came in and it got hijacked in a certain way. But I cannot say it has not brought well-being to the farmers, it has, but it got lost on the way. So now the FPO movement is done in a more, a more well-thought-out way, and here the participation of the farmers is. What is the problem of our farmer? Why is Indian farmer so poor? Is simply because there is no power of scale. Over generations, the land has become so small, the average land holding is 1 hectare, which is 2.25 acres. To earn a living from this is a heartbreaking process. We were doing subsistence farming, that is, we were growing whatever we need in our land for ourselves and our family, we ate out of it, somehow we were managing. When this was happening, the rural population was very poor, but generally well-nourished. They ate well, they were strong. Generally in our culture, we say a rural person means a robust man or woman, they were very strong. But please today, walk in our villages and see, 60% of the population, their skeletal system has not grown to full size. This is because this shift from subsistence farming to commercial farming has happened in such a disorganized way that today there is more money, maybe they have a motorcycle, they have a bore well, everybody has a cell phone, all this stuff, but the nourishment has gone down dramatically, or in other words, we are silently creating an underdeveloped population in this country. Right now, in most people's mind, if you see a village person who is shrunk like that, people will say, village people are like that only. Village people were not like this 35, 40 years ago. 40 years ago, a village person means a robust man, but today he shrunk like this because the staple diet has become like this, that because cash is in the hand but there's no food commodities as such, staple diet in the south has become rice, tamarind and chili and salt, With this we can make something tasty and we are eating this up. In the north it's become, like how the whole country, at least the northern part of the country, goes into a tizzy if the onion price goes up. Why is onion such a big thing? I was in London and this onion price had gone up and all the 4 television English channels were only talking about onion. I was with a family, they were asking, what is this thing about onion, Sadhguru, in India? I said, that's our staple diet. That's what everybody is eating, nothing else. Onion means they'll go crazy because that's the staple diet. Onion, chili, wheat has become the staple diet in North India. So, because of this, nourishment levels have come down significantly. Human body is not developing fully. Once you have an underdeveloped population, you will have an underdeveloped nation, there's no question about it. So, we need to change this means, we need to give the power of scale to the farmer. How to give the power of scale? Well, you cannot do land aggregation, this and that will be too revolutionary and it will lead to, in many ways, disruptions in the country. So what we are trying to do here is aggregate input, aggregate irrigation, aggregate marketing. Farming everybody does on their land as they were doing. See, I will tell you the simple thing, the waste of resource in the country, how it's happening. Average land holding is 2.25 acres. Let us assume everybody has 2.25 acres, many people don't have that, somebody has 5 acres, somebody has 1 acre like this. Every 2 acres or 2.25 acres, you have to put a barbed wire fence today, which was not the need some time ago. A fence, every 2.25 acres you need a borewell, you need an electric connection, and for 2.25 acres a man has to go and sit, man or woman has to go and sit in that land every day just to prove it's my land. It's very simple to change these dynamics. One thing is to digitize all our survey in such a way that somebody can't move a stone here and there and change the land description. One thing is to establish the property properly, digitally properly surveyed and put. So this will relax one aspect of it. Another reason why the farmer every day goes to the land is he has to turn on the pump. For that he goes, sits there, nothing else to do. He will sit and smoke, he will drink, he will hang around there doing nothing. Most men and women in rural India, for most part of the time, they're doing nothing except proving this is my land and turning on the pump and sitting there. It is not that every day there's some work. If you relax these things, that let us say we integrate 10,000 farmers together in terms of land. Land is still separate, it's digitized and land ownership is separate, farming is separate. But if you integrate irrigation, if you hit a good water source and let's say irrigate this, we have been talking to various companies, drip irrigation companies and others, they're willing to do this on a rental basis. One reason why farmer is continuously in debt is his investment in irrigation and his investment in fencing, his investment in these kind of electrical implements and all these things. If all these things are integrated, let us say one large company comes and takes up 10,000 farmers, gives free irrigation, gives free advice what should happen and provides whatever, that company can be FPO run by the farmers, but we can bring outside expertise. That's what we are doing right now. In a matter of 4 years, the income has gone up by 300%. One important thing we have done is integration of marketing and input. Just because of this has happened. If it is done in large scale, let's say 50,000 farmers are brought together, I will tell you, for the latitudinal spread that we have and the climatic advantage we have, which means 12 years of the year we can grow crops, we must understand not every nation in the world can grow crops 12 years of the year. We can grow crops 12 months of the year, and there is a latitudinal spread that literally anything anybody wants in this world, we can grow for them. If we integrate farming like this, investments like this in terms of irrigation, marketing, these two things if we integrate, we can become the breadbasket of the world, especially this post-corona season. We have tremendous opportunities to really do this, but this FPO movement has to take off in a big way. Today, I think there are over 5,000 FPOs, but the number of FPOs is not the important thing, it's the size of FPOs which is important. Right now, we have an FPO here with about 1,200 farmers. We are seeing how to make this into 10,000 farmer FPO. If 10,000 farmers come together, the kind of power of scale they have is such that very easily farmers' income can be doubled enormously. This is the best way to stop migration, that agriculture should become a very lucrative process. As a part of this, we have introduced what is called as agroforestry, that there are long-term crops on everybody's land. See, today it is estimated in the next 10 years, 220 million people will migrate from rural India to urban India. You ask any farmer, not even 2% of the farmers in the country want their children to go into agriculture. They don't want. They want their children to move into the city and do something, it doesn't matter what. They don't mind if their son stands in front of a building as a chowkidar, but they don't want him to be in farming because it's heartbreaking and it's so uncertain on a yearly basis. It's a gambling all the time because the holdings are so small. If we change this perspective, we bring long-term crops on the land in the form of trees, and there's an integration of irrigation and marketing. With this, here, for all the agro farmers, in about 7 to 8 years' time, their incomes have gone up anywhere between 300 to 800%. There are over 70,000 farmers today who achieved this in Tamil Nadu. We need to make this happen on a much larger scale, because if there are no long-term crops, there is no incentive for people to stay on the land. And also, agriculture should not be in the universities, agriculture has to come into rural schools. Agricultural science cannot remain in the universities, it has to come into the rural schools.
Thank you, Sadhguru. Sadhguru, we have some questions from the audience, one from the student and one from Dr. P.V. Sharma. After these two questions, which I'll ask together, We have received a video from our Honorable Minister for Education, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyalji. That video will be played where he is giving the message about what all Government of India is doing to combat Corona pandemic. And after that, we'll request you for your closing remarks. So first, these two questions, Sadhguru. From a student, he is asking that due to Corona pandemic, the job scenario has become grim. People are scared of losing jobs and students are worrying about their placements. It is learned that many placement offers are being withdrawn by recruiters. An economic recession is on the anvil. How to cope up with such a situation? And second question is that by Dr. P.V. Sharma, he is the Vice Chancellor of MIT University, that what should we do in the education space to create well-being, peace, and happiness? Sadhguruji.
Well, we have still not seen the AC. After Corona, we have still not seen. It all depends how long it lasts. There are general estimates that in India, its severity could last till September, that it may be till September before our economic activity really gets on the ground. So post that, what we do will determine a lot of things, but short-term, job losses, well, a whole lot of youth without any direction looks like an inevitable process. But we need to understand we are a developing nation. A developing nation means still there are a lot of things to be done. So youth, especially in the coming 2 years, should not just sit and wait for employment. That mentality should go. Every one of them should see how they can find a solution for many problems which exist in our society. By providing these solutions, they must make a living, they must thrive from this, and from this they must grow, from this they must innovate, from this they must create tremendous possibilities for the nation. If everybody sits back and waits for a job to be given, well, we must understand till 1990, I think if I'm correct, you people should know the statistics better. I think in 1990 or 1980, only about 7% of India had employment, rest were all self-employed. So from there, I think the percentages have changed today to a certain extent, but still largely we are a self-employed nation. In the next 2 years, definitely self-employment is going to be very big because employers' ability to give you employment is been considerably reduced with the GDP growth falling in a huge way. How long will we suffer? How much foreign investments will come into the country? How much of China's pie we will be able to take? These are all subject to various realities, it's not just going to happen like that overnight. Many things have to be done right. The most important thing is particularly the Japanese companies and the American companies, at least partially, they want to move out of China for their own security and well-being. So this is an opportunity. About over 300 companies are wanting to do this right now. We must throw out a big welcome for them. Big absolute welcome. Absolute welcome means when they land here, we must have land ready, electricity ready, water ready, all permissions ready, environmental clearances ready, everything ready. When they come, we must welcome them, distribute them across in all the 28 states in whatever proportions we want. And this will be the way forward. In 1.5 to 2 years, we can bounce back in a big way. And the advantages we had lost in the past. See, even among the Asian countries, as a nation, we are at least 25 to 30 years behind other nations in terms of our quality of life and things like that. So this is the best time. In the next 5 years to 8 years' time, we can catch up with that. Never before we've had an opportunity like this, but will we grab this opportunity? This is the important thing. We as a generation, instead of thinking about what will happen beyond in this so-called AC era, what will happen? Instead of thinking and predicting and consulting astrologers, we must have a clear strategy as to where will we be in the next 5 years. Because for the first time, There were many status quo set up in the world, economic platforms which are a status quo, you can't easily change that. Today, there is a whole disruption in this. If we are truly an enterprising nation, this is our best opportunity we have, we must take that.
Thank you, Sadhguru. We are grateful to our Honorable Minister for Human Resource Development, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji, for agreeing to give a video message through the channel of Sadhguru to all our students, teachers, and Vice Chancellors. May I request Isha Foundation to please play the video, and after that we'll request Sadhguru to give his concluding remarks.
भारतीय विश्वविद्यालय संघ द्वारा आयोजित ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कार्यक्रम जो वर्तमान परिस्थितियों में भारतीय विश्वविद्यालयों के समय चुनौती भरा जो ये समय है, जो क्षण है, उस पे आज पूरे देश के सभी विश्वविद्यालयों के लोग जुड़े हुए हैं। सभी लोगों का अभिनंदन कर रहा हूँ। मेरी शुभकामना कि जो आज पूरी दुनिया का इस संकट गहरा है, इस गहरे संकट में हम लोग अपने अनुशासन से, अपनी प्रतिभा से, अपनी मेहनत से और अपने बनाए हुए अनुशासनात्मक मार्ग से इस बड़ी लड़ाई को जीतेंगे। मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि आज इस कार्यक्रम में मेरे को बताया गया कि सदगुरु जी भी उपस्थित हो रहे हैं, जो उनका मार्गदर्शन सभी लोगों को मिलेगा। मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि इस महामारी के बाद जिस तरीके से शिक्षा विभाग, मानव संसाधन विकास मंत्रालय ने की बात एक के बाद एक निर्णय लिए हैं, आज मुझे ये कहते हुए खुशी है कि हम अपने जो छात्र हैं उनके साथ लगातार कोशिश करें कि संवाद बना रहे। आप सबको मालूम है कि ऑनलाइन शिक्षा का विस्तार करने की दिशा में हमने एक टास्क फोर्स भी बनाई थी। पहले से हम स्वयं और स्वयं प्रभा के माध्यम से उच्च शिक्षा को ऑनलाइन दे रहे थे, लेकिन अब हम और तेजी से उसको बढ़ा रहे हैं। स्वयं दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा पोर्टल है, ऐसा पोर्टल है जिसमें दुनिया के लोग आकर के उसका लाभ उठा रहे हैं। सभी विश्वविद्यालय इसका कैसे लाभ उठा सकते हैं, इसमें आकर्षक पाठ्य सामग्री है, विभिन्न विषयों में है। हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि भारत की सभी भाषाओं में इन पाठ्यक्रमों को हम दे सकें। आप सबको मालूम है कि स्वयं प्रभा जो 32-33 चैनल हैं हमारे टीवी चैनल के, जो 32-33 चैनल हमारे रेगुलर 24 घंटे चलते हैं, DTH पर आपको उपलब्ध होते हैं। हमारी कोशिश है कि इसमें भी हम अधिक से अधिक आकर्षक पाठ्य सामग्री अपने उच्च शिक्षा के लिए उपलब्ध करा सकें। और इस दिशा में मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि चाहे स्वयं है, चाहे स्वयं प्रभा है, और चाहे NDL है, नेशनल डिजिटल लाइब्रेरी, इसका बहुत व्याप है। आप वहां से सामग्री को ले सकते हैं। वो ये बहुत बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म है और इसलिए चाहे वो स्वयं है, स्वयं प्रभा है, NDL है, लीप है, लीप भी कार्यक्रम हम लोगों ने जो नेतृत्व विकास के वो क्षमता कैसे बढ़ सकती है, युक्ति पोर्टल अभी हमने जो बनाया है, जो विभिन्न क्षेत्रों में हमारे विश्वविद्यालय शोध अनुसंधान कर रहे हैं, जो भी काम कर रहे हैं, वो युक्ति पोर्टल पर सब एक जगह कैसे संग्रहित हो सकते हैं। लेकिन मैं आपके माध्यम से अपने छात्रों को विशेष करके कहना चाहता हूँ और अध्यापक गण को कि जहाँ अध्यापक गण के लिए, प्राध्यापक गण के लिए अर्पित पोर्टल हमने दिया है, जिससे उनको बहुत मदद मिल रही होगी। और छात्रों से मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि स्पार्क आज दुनिया में, दुनिया के देशों के साथ, दुनिया के शीर्ष 128 विश्वविद्यालयों के साथ हमारा पारस्परिक अनुसंधान चल रहा है। आपके लिए बहुत बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म खुला है। हम लोग स्ट्राइड अंतर विषय शोध कैसे करके हो सकते हैं, इस दिशा में बहुत अच्छा आपके सामने है, इम्प्रिंट है, इम्प्रेस है। और इसलिए मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि चाहे ज्ञान है, क्या चाहे ज्ञान प्लस है, आप तो स्टडी इन इंडिया के तहत पूरी दुनिया के लोग भारत में अध्ययन करने के लिए आना शुरू हुए हैं। और इसलिए मैं इस अवसर पर आप सबको शुभकामना देना चाहता हूँ। और मेरा भरोसा है कि जिस तरीके से हमारे तमाम उच्च शैक्षणिक संस्थानों ने इस समय शोध और अनुसंधान किया है, चाहे मेरे विश्वविद्यालय हों, चाहे मेरे IITs हों, ट्रिपल IITs हों, NITs हों, IIM हों, आईसर हों, ये उच्च शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में जो इस बीच, इस महामारी, कोरोना की महामारी के बीच जिस तरीके से मेरे शैक्षणिक संस्थानों ने एक के बाद एक अनुसंधान किए हैं और उसका रिजल्ट अब निकलना शुरू हुआ है, मुझे भरोसा है कि हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की अगुवाई में जिस दृढ़ता से इस महामारी का मुकाबला करने की तैयारी शुरू से ही है और हम उसमें सफल भी हैं, काफी हद तक सफल हैं। हमको कोरोना को भगाना है, हमको मिलकर के एकजुट होकर के देश की एक सूत्र में पिरो करके जो जहां है, जिस क्षमता के साथ है, जो उसकी प्रखरता है, जो उसकी जिम्मेदारी है, उन जिम्मेदारियों को निर्वहन करते हुए निश्चित रूप में वो एक ऐसा मानदंड स्थापित करेगा जिससे हम दुनिया को कह सकेंगे कि हाँ, मेरा भारत एक है, श्रेष्ठ है और हम किसी भी मुसीबत का मुकाबला करने के लिए हर समय तैयार हैं। मैं इस अवसर पर सभी लोगों को, जो भी लोग जुड़े हुए हैं, उन सबका मैं इस अवसर पर अभिनंदन करता हूँ, आप सबका स्वागत भी कर रहा हूँ।
Our gratitude for the minister to take his time to give this message, and for all the higher education institutions. We must, as all of you know, these platforms have been created and many universities from across the world are throwing out free content all over the place. So, higher education institutions in India must move from repositories of information to institutions of inspiration, to create a population which is inspired, focused and balanced should be the most important thing. There is no better culture who is equipped to create this than our culture here, because we have entire technologies for inner well-being. In whatever way we can assist you in this endeavor for all the higher education institutions, we are willing to do that. And I don't know, we can probably our teams can sit down and talk with you and see how to offer these tools for maximum number of people, because right now, this is the greatest thing that needs to happen. As I said earlier, really if you look at it, the only wealth we have in this country right now is human resource. And this human resource, if it has to unlock and unleash its potential, it needs people, human beings who are inspired, focused, balanced and disciplined towards a certain purpose. If we have an uninspired, unfocused, indisciplined crowd, then we will become the greatest disaster. But if we change that, we could be the greatest miracle of the coming century. India has the potential, but between a potential and reality, there is a distance. We must have the vision, courage and commitment to walk this distance. In this journey, the higher education institutions of this country has a significant role. In whichever way we can assist you in making this happen, we are always available for you. Thank you very much for having me with all of you today.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Sadhguru. Thank you for being with us today. And thank you for a very, very fruitful interaction. We all feel blessed. And also thanks to all the participants, all the panelists who have been here, panelists as well as the participants who have joined us on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you, Sadhguru. Thank you. Hope to have many more opportunities of this time. Thank you.